I'm Ryan Betson.
I'm Max Cooper.
And this week we got to do something super cool. So big thank you to the team over Bandai Namco Australia. We got to see this little sneaky, the behind closed doors in a COVID world keynote presentation for the latest in the Dark Pictures Anthology, The House of Ashes. This is the third in the series. And Max, give us a rundown what it's about.
So, courtesy of the Dark Pictures website, it's a military unit searching for chemical weapons unearth something far deadlier in the ruins of a buried Sumerian temple deep beneath the Arabian desert. Something evil is awakened, savage and unstoppable. A nest of ancient and unearthly creatures has found a new prey to hunt.
Sounds nuts. So what we got to see is we saw about a 20-minute total presentation with about 10 minutes of gameplay, which will be interspliced with what we discussed here today, as well as a 10-minute discussion from the game director himself, Will Doyle, and he gave us a bit of a rundown about what the game is about, what they're hoping to achieve, where it's set, where it's going. Where do you want to start, Max? We got a little bit to run through, actually. We both took a bunch of notes, real profesh about it.
Real profesh.
Go?
I mean, we can kick off with the main act. So in the previous two Dark Pictures Anthology games, there has been like one key main actor.
Yes.
So the one in this title will be Ashley Teasdale.
For me, I think she was in Scary Movie 5. That's the movie that I think of her in.
High School Musical.
I haven't seen High School Musical, man. Like, come on.
Get your head in the game, right?
I know that reference, though. Yeah, so, of course, like the other two, they do have that main pinpoint actor, something that was certainly kicked in a gear with the likes of Supermassive in Until Dawn with Hayden known from Heroes, so I can never pronounce his surname.
Rami Malek.
And Rami Malek as well. This is like back in the day before he became the Rami Malek that we know. So that's pretty cool. So we saw her originally in like a teaser trailer wading through a pool of blood with a bone torch, but we get a little bit more background of this. So one thing they also touched upon in this presentation, which I think would be a good place to start, and then we can get into the more specifics of the stories and whatnot, and that is the type of horror that we're dealing with. So they were discussing how in previous iterations of the Dark Pictures Anthology, they're wanting to hit different senses, different feelings, right? Yep. So in A Little Hope, it was a lot more of like the supernatural witch trial sort of thing based around Salem. And in Man of Medan, it was based around a real ghost boat story, and it was more of a sort of attempt of like a psychological sort of horror with the idea of people losing their mind on a boat. Where here, they have gone for a more environmental horror approach, very similar to that of Alien and Predators. So they'd be constantly being hunted by this weird, creepy, alien-esque creature. And
they specifically name drop H.P. Lovecraft with Mountains of Madness.
Yeah.
So they're doing that exploration horror.
Yeah, it's got for me, like, and as we're hearing these little clicky noises that the creature is making, it's like we're about to get stalked by something brutal. So how do you feel about them doing this third approach in a different genre of horror?
I think it plays to the strength because obviously they're their own self-contained stories, games. It's nice to see a change of direction because obviously the first two are very different from each other, and to keep that going, I think keeps the games fresh. Because that way it also makes sense that it is an anthology and they are taking these breaks between the games. It gives a not a reason, but like it explains the breaks because they're not just pumping out the same style of game each time.
I completely agree. So with the idea of the anthology, to me, it seems like a collective of horror or dark pictures in this case, as they've named them. So with that. Apologies, everyone. My voice has just come back after fasting for a little day. It's a bit rough. So like having a cool little sampler approach has me excited because we know there was like an 8 or something movie deal in regards to the Dark Pictures Anthology. So knowing that we're going to get something so tonally different each time.
It's like a tasting plate of horror games.
Yeah, pretty much. I think to me, that's certainly a big, big thing. very similar to, Little Hope and Dark Picture. Little Hope and Man of Medan. This is based on a real world idea or a real world concept. In that case, it is around the ancient kingdom of Akkad. With a temple being built by this self-proclaimed god, the king of the Akkadian Empire, Naram Sin. So it's originally built in around 2250 BC. The idea being that this gentleman has upset the gods, and they've put a curse onto his people. And so he's attempted to, rebuild the love with the gods by creating this giant temple. Nah, joke's on them. Didn't happen. And then eventually, over time, the temple gets buried. The game itself, set in 2003, as you alluded to before, Max. A bunch of people seeking WMDs in this area. They are essentially attacking some Iraqi militants, and then the ground crumbles underneath them, and they fall into the temple, and that is where it all sort of kicks in a gear. So with that, we see a team built up of a bunch of U.S. Special Forces, Air Force, CIA, and a bunch of other three-letter names you've heard of, including one Iraqi soldier. Just such a cool idea, actually, sort of combining that. And people having to work with your enemy, the enemy is my friend and whatever. So what do you think of the setting?
I think it's gonna work well. It's supernaturally enough. It could be supernatural enough to give that tension, because obviously this thing that's hunting us, or is essentially stalking you through the thing. Like, from what we saw in the footage, it's all very, because you fall into basically this giant crater. It's very labyrinthian, closed quarters, high tension areas, and I think it's going to play out really well. I think the setting makes sense for what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and I agree, because the idea if they're trying to create some sort of ancient creature or some long lost cryptozoology-esque thing, like having it exist in this underground temple is it gives me old Temple of Doom sort of vibes. It's got that real sort of ancient civilization, and with that comes a lot of unknowns, right? Yeah. And that's I'm a big fan of, right? Like, if you ground it in like like Little Hope, the Salem witch trials, well, we have a relative understanding of how they went down. There is a grounding here. Where here, it's like, well, it's grounded in a reality, but there's still enough ambiguity to create a cool creature that doesn't fit our standard understanding of what a creature should be in that space. Let's see. What else we sort of run into before we get into the gameplay footage itself, though? Let's see. One of the key things they discussed is they talked about how they want you to feel exposed, vulnerable, and threatened, and feel like something's watching you at all times.
So, like I mentioned before, a lot of what we saw was them basically traversing through this labyrinth cave system. So it was very claustrophobic, very closed off, very dark, and you see for like a split second, like a frame of this thing just dashing across the screen, and then
I admit I jumped. It was you and me on Discord going.
Yeah, but then you're opening up into these vast caverns. Like when you reach the front of that temple, it's this big, massive open space. There's no cover. There's nothing to hide behind. You're either completely out in the open, exposed like they want you to be, or you're stuck in these tight corridors, vulnerable from something something that's hunting you.
Yeah, it's mad. It's absolutely mad. I love that as an idea, and what they've done to make that appear to create that more sense of fear and that sense of openness and tightness is they've removed what was one of the staples of the Dark Pictures Anthology, which was the fixed cameras. That is gone. In a complete mechanical overhaul, they have removed that, and you now have a free moving 360 degree camera, which to brilliant effect. When you're in those open chasms, you're seeing full body 3D, full body third person, where you're seeing the full scope of the room. But as you walk into that hallway, it pulls in, it closes up right behind. They're almost like a Resident Evil 2 remake-esque shooting down, holding down the barrel, kind of a really locked in, claustrophobic feel. And that really sort of nailed that, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And with that, they've now included a flashlight button. So with this being set in the underground catacombs, it's going to be dark. It's going to be dark all the time. But with the flashlight, they're implying this sort of risk-reward setup, where the idea is if you turn that flashlight on, yes, you see, but you are going to move slower. So yes, you'll see the thing that's hunting you potentially, but that means it might catch you. So I think there'll be a lot of either having my brightness up at full, or just slowly walking through a bunch of hallways.
Yeah. Another thing that they have changed up is they talk about getting feedback from their players. And one of the things they got a lot of feedback was the... what's the word I'm looking for? The difficulty spike in some of the QuickTime events that they had in their previous titles. So now, QTEs have their own difficulty settings. So you can change the way that they work inside the game. You can if you're not as quick as you need to be for a quick time event, you can set them to like an easy mode, and they're slower, giving you more time to hit those button prompts in time. If you are sort of abilities challenged, you might not have to press it as hard. You might want to press this once, press and hold. It looks as if they're going a bit more of that adaptability sort of way, which is amazing. Yeah, and then obviously you can go the other way. You can jack the difficulty up. So you have a shorter time window to hit those QTEs before the bad stuff happens.
Yeah. And then, but there is a difficulty setting overall. By the looks, we're looking for an sort of an easy, a medium, and a no holds barred, which means you are probably going to get jacked, or Triple H is going to come in and go at you with a pair of pliers. That's what I connect to no holds barred, which is amazing. But in good news, of course, it is coming across all platforms. It's coming to PS5, it's coming to PS4, which is what we primarily care about, and it'll be on Series X, Xbox X, PC, all that sort of garbage. So we're going to have at least some sort of next-gen support. Now, the first thing that I really noticed in the gameplay footage that we have, and hopefully you're seeing it now, is lighting, and especially moving into the next generation with ray tracing being a big thing, like the system god ray sort of things as lights are coming in from above, and it's looking pretty. And it's with the idea around the flashlight and darkness, I think we're going to see the full scope of that high dynamic range of that ray tracing. I'm excited, man. Like I said, that's the one thing that I've noticed so far in PS5 is that things are shiny, things are pretty, and lighting is awesome.
Yeah. So they didn't go into any, apart from saying that there was going to be some improved graphical fidelity, they didn't talk about any being a third-party title. They didn't talk about any, for example, DualSense support or any of the 3D audio or anything like that, which makes sense because obviously it is coming to all platforms. So being third-party, they probably didn't have that incentive to push for those things, which is fine. The graphic fidelity boost is quite nice, though. The
team themselves haven't really aligned with any particular platform, so they're not like, unlike Resident Evil, which Capcom is across both platforms, but because they work primarily with PlayStation, they were able to put that support in there. Yeah, where the team here have not really laid down anything specific, so they're just kind of going where they need, which is cool. Game modes. One of the great features that have come out of the previous games is the multiple ways to play, and that continues here as well. Especially around the idea of, playing with your friends, online, on the couch, etc. So they mentioned that there are 4 made playing modes. The first one being what have I written? My handwriting is disgusting.
It's the shared story, which is the online play with a friend. There's the movie night, which is that you can have up to 5 players in the same room, either doing controller passes, or if you have 5 controllers, you can do it that way, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know. Who has 5 dual senses, crazy people.
Now, people who can afford 5, I guess. And then you have the 2 single-player paths. You have the theatrical version and the Snyder cut, or the curator's cut.
It's 4x3, it's black and white, and Ben Affleck's in it. No. So this is what's really interesting. Is there's two different versions of the same single player.
Yeah, so the curator's cut is I have written it was a pre-order bonus. I'll have to double check that.
It is a pre-order bonus, yeah. So if you do pre-order the game, you get access to this different cut of the game. And what it's essentially doing in the main single player is that you will see the game in the same event from a different perspective. Yeah. So there's going to be like additional scenes, additional approaches, everything. Like, that seems a lot to be hidden behind a pre-order, I might add.
Yeah. It's interesting to see if it'll be added at a later date for those who didn't pre-order. But it is a pretty big incentive to get that pre-order bonus, because it does specifically say that there will be scenes that aren't included in the theatrical cut in the curated cut.
So I do wonder whether it's something you can pay for later, because anyone that is a big fan of these games, the whole idea of these games is replayability and going through it again and again and again. And I think people would be pretty pissy if there's a whole section of the game that they cannot access just because they didn't pre-order the game. Because pre-order culture is something that for a bigger discussion. And I know I don't pre-order games myself anymore unless I can avoid it. Unless I can't avoid it. But it's interesting.
Yeah,
but it's all right. It's all good. But there was that big hunk of gameplay itself. We saw it. We saw both a theatrical cut and a curated cut. So it was a same scene. It was involving Nick Kay, which is one of the 5 characters that you play. He is the partner of Ashley Teasdale's character Rachel Kay, who she is a CIA officer, and I believe he is too. And then the other is a gentleman by the name of Jason. My handwriting is bad, and it's how they would see it, right? So that's the scenario. So what we're seeing is they're both coming into the area, coming into the underground after the earthquake's taken place. I believe it was Jason. It was Nick, who had seen something, and with the dialogue options that we know from the previous games, because that mechanic is still the same, he's gone, hey dude, I've seen something, nah. But in the other version, the person's coming to you and saying that, and then you get to respond with like, hey man, you're crazy, or yeah, I believe you, and whatever.
Yeah, so the game director mentioned that the difference in the two scenes was also the fact that one of those characters outranks the other character.
Yes.
So there's that different leadership dynamic between them two, giving you obviously the different dialogue options and whatnot. So are you playing character? Do you this person outranks this person? Would as this character make that decision? Yeah.
And then of course we see it all go badly. Because we come to find the gentleman hanging by like a barbed wire fence from the top of the cave, clicky noises everywhere. We see a woman get straight yoinked out of the darkness, into the darkness, and then chaos ensues.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we've missed?
I don't think so. We covered a lot.
Yeah, so look, I said a lot of it you would have seen in the footage that I have overlaid over this edit as well. So hopefully you understand where we're coming from, but it was a great thing to sit down and watch for the full 20 minutes. I don't know about you, I was already pretty excited for this, coming off the back of Little Hope. Man in Medan, I was a bit flat on. I loved Little Hope because it gave me nothing but sweet Silent Hill vibes, and with this giving me like a unapologetic Aliens Predator feel, it's thumbing up for me already. From what we have seen so far, I am excited to check it out.
There was no release date given, if I'm
No,
mistaken,
they did just say 2021, so we presume probably around October-y, which is where we saw it drop last year, and I believe... actually, no, Man of Medan was August from memory. So it's probably got, with the whole global bastard, it's very likely it's pushed a little bit back, but it sounds like a good October game for me. I ain't complaining.
Yeah, I mean, if it comes out, Halloween style, that'd be...
Yeah, that would be very, very nice. Like, Grand doesn't have the Halloween-y feel to it. It's got
no, definitely not.
Especially compared to what was it called? The other one. I just said Little Hope.
Right.
But you know, I'm personally quite excited. I'm also very excited for it to do well, because it is part of my 2021 video games draft. Out of all the games that I have that haven't released this year or won't release this year, this game is one of them. And it will hopefully release this year. So I have a lot personally invested in the Metacritic of this game, even though we have no control over that. That's the whole point. But I'm very hopeful. And as I've in the last couple of years had a recent turn into spooks games and really enjoying them, I think this might make the cut as well.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Max, or are we Dunskies?
I mean, the big one is definitely just going back to it. I know we mentioned a while ago, but just how different this game is going to play purely because you have a player controlled camera now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think that having the whole set, like it's set in a more recenty time, like 2003, like it's set internationally, like it's entirely set within some ancient temple, like it's not going to have that groundedness that say A Little Hope did or Man of Medan did, because like, well, I can contextualize a boat, I can contextualize a small village, but I can't contextualize a scary temple. You know what I mean? But anyways, big thank you to the team at Bandai Namco Australia for allowing us to get involved in this opportunity. We really do appreciate it. Let us know what you guys think of the footage, of what we've had to say here in comments below. Twitter, Discord, Instagram, all those links are in that below area.
Below area.
In our below area. If you've liked what we've had to say here and you want to hear us more, you can check our weekly PlayStation podcast. It's called For the Players, the PopC PlayStation podcast. Max and I do it every week. It's literally blasted on Max's chest right now. Yes, we record every Saturday live on Twitch, 4 p.m. and then it goes up every Monday morning on both on this YouTube channel as well as our podcast services. So if you like that, come check that out.
We really need to put up a disclaimer saying that will not always be on 4 p.m. Saturdays.
Nine times out of 10, we always stream it on Twitch on the weekend, but it is the day may vary on that once in a once time. But until then, I'm Ryan Betson.
I'm Max Cooper.
And that was some rad discussion around Dark Pictures House of Ashes.